Welcome back to the Dementia Collective, the podcast where we explore powerful stories and fresh ideas shaping the future of dementia care. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Ron Beleno. Ron is a longtime caregiver mentor and connector whose journey began with his father's diagnosis of dementia in 2007. Ron supported him for over a decade until his passing in 2018. Today, Ron is a recognized caregiver advocate and leader in the aging and dementia space, helping aging adults, caregivers, and caring community members through advocacy, innovation, and community building. Ron's work spans the entire Canadian landscape and reaches internationally as well. He collaborates with health systems and community organizations, research groups, innovators, patient groups at both universities and colleges. He has also presented and spoken internationally on caregiving, aging, and innovation. His focus is on bridging lived experiences with practical solutions, especially in dementia care, aging in place, and designing tools that genuinely help families navigate their day-to-day challenges. In 2025, Ron received two significant recognitions for this impact. Firstly, the Vicky Kamak Trailblazer Caregiving Award from the Canadian Centre of Caregiving Excellence, a national honor, and the Janet Beat Impact Award, the first award of its kind from the Ontario Caregiver Organization. He is also an AgeWell Honorary Fellow, a recognition he received previously for his leadership in technology and aging across Canada. A core part of Ron's work centers on caregiver mindset, especially the inner conversation caregivers have with themselves. He helps people reframe stress, reduce pressure, and build more supportive and confident self-talk. He also gently notes how some people, including many men, often enter into caregiving role later than ideal, and how showing up earlier and asking for help and building a care team can transform the journey. Ron is currently launching a YouTube channel covering caregiving, aging, and innovation and stories across Canada and internationally. He is also leading WeCanBe.ca, a new national platform connecting aging adults and caregivers with opportunities of research, innovation, and community engagement. His mission is simple: to make caregiving more connected, more supported, and more impactful for families everywhere. Ron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Andy. I'm excited to be here with a friend of mine that I've known for many years. So looking forward to this conversation.
Of course, I think it's going to be amazing in the audience. I think it's going to learn so many things. You've got so much wisdom to share. So I appreciate you joining us. Before we get started, though, we have a Patreon where members of the village who support us and the show are able to ask the guests one question. One of the questions that was submitted to ask you is, ready? I'm a male caregiver for my parent who's living in a long-term care facility. When I visit, staff often seem surprised that I'm there. Again, they say things like, "It's so nice that you have come." I know it's meant kindly, but it feels like the expectation was that I wouldn't be there for my parent. As a man, how have you navigated the assumption that caregiving or compassion isn't really in your lane as a male? And how do you navigate that?
Okay, this is the best question to ask at the beginning for me, especially over the years. I've been talking about men, caregivers who are there, but they're judged in so many ways that they don't show up or that they're not sensitive enough. Uh, all that, it's out there. So I'm going to be straight up to all the gentlemen listening is that, yeah, it's out there. And uh, sometimes it's true. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that a lot of this is true. But it really comes back to the individual and how you receive things is what I'm going to tell people. First and foremost, I am going to say to the gentlemen that are listening, that are quietly in the background, I do know that many of you are caring for the person in your life. And it may come across very differently to many people. Most men, I'm going to say, they're Andy, how they show up is it's about task, execution. Let's get it done. What do we need to do? Okay, let's solve the problem. Okay. Not everybody, but I'm just gonna say that's the trend I see all the time. And and I'm the kind of person that I'm okay talking about the emotional side of things. That's sometimes the things that doesn't come up that people have a hard time, gentlemen have a hard time uh talking about. So I'm gonna say always remember the intent that people come with and how you receive it. At the end of the day, you have to be the person that decides how to receive what's given to you. And most times, if someone's saying to you, "Thanks for coming. We weren't expecting you," or many times men don't show up. it's not to say anything in any negative way. It's just really the way I receive it is it's all in good intent. It's just on my part to say, yeah, you know what? I have to kind of receive it, and I get to choose if I'm conscious enough to receive it in a way that is best for me. I said, so I'll take it, I'll receive it, um, and maybe that's how it is for others that don't show up or aren't there. That people will say, okay, it's rare to see a guy show up. And I'm going to say honestly, for those that don't know me, I actually do a lot of presentations across Canada, in person, also virtually. Majority of the people that show up when it's specifically out on the conversation of caregiving or the caregivers, 90% women. Okay. 90% women easily show up, if not close to 100. So I'd be in a room with 100 people. I'm not complaining. Okay. When do I have an audience with 90% women staring at me? But it's, no, it's with a lot of, I say that jokingly with, a lot of intent here that I'm saying is that men actually don't show up. They believe they could execute, and sometimes there is a side of caregiving that they have to realize that there is this emotional, vulnerable side that that's not given out there. Okay, Andy, there's one group that I have to do a shout out to. It's the Durham Region Men's Caregiving Breakfast Club. I'm not sure if that's the exact title. Okay. I posted this on LinkedIn years ago, but there is a men's caregiving group organized, okay, with the Durham Alzheimer's Society, okay, here in Ontario, and they meet once a month at a local Denny's, okay, for breakfast. And I got invited to that after my caregiving with my dad. And I told them, I think you're the only group that does this. And they said, really? Why are not all the men showing up in other places? They said they might have here and there a little like that, but not to the size of there's what, 20 of you? What? We're having a Christmas party, a holiday party, and 30 men are exchanging Christmas gifts, all that stuff with a band. It's like, cool. Like, and all they talk about is their caregiving, about their partner, their care partner, their wife, or, that's in long-term care. And it's there. We just got to talk about it more like this, there, Andy.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And that these men are really trying to be, proactive and really changing the narrative of males in caregiving. Um, when I think about caregiving, oftentimes, like you said, it's typically the female we think about, and you typically will assume that it is the female in the family that would take on that role. Um, so I just think through that process, like in a family with multiple kids, and the thought process would be, the daughter would take that on. I would suspect that the son might have, some trepidation or
Hmm.
challenge if everyone thinks it's going to be her, but now it's him. And I just think that's an interesting dynamic, right? And we're seeing the shift towards the caring is no longer a feminine trait; it is a neutral one that anyone can do, and as in your case, it's the love of your parents and the love of your family is what drives you to want to make that change towards caregiving.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in my family, uh, for those just to get a brief background, yeah. So my dad had Alzheimer's, diagnosed from 2007 to 2018. So just over 10 years, I cared for dad. Now, both my parents, there's a cultural play. They came from the Philippines, right? Philippines is a country of caring. That's what they export mostly as well. I doubt anyone on this planet would not know someone who's a Filipino, Filipina that's in healthcare. Okay, and some place, healthcare and karaoke is what they're good at. Okay, let's just. I'm not on that
And
part,
food.
but yeah. So okay, yeah, and but so dad, came, mom as well. They only had one child. That's what they tell me, and I was their favorite child, right? So no siblings, and so Guy, or if I was their son or their daughter, it all fell to me whether or not I would be caring. So um, I actually didn't know, some of these, uh, let's say, labels or words that men attach to themselves. I'm a person that's very careful on the words that people say, and it's creating that filter to kind of say, at whatever people tell me, at the end of the day, I get to choose. Okay, whatever their intent. So it's back to that first Patreon question. Okay, from the gentleman that was asking about this. That at the end of the day, it's like what. Whenever I hear these phrases, I even asked that Breakfast Club. I said, "Why do you think men have a hard time talking about caregiving besides that group?" Okay, and they said, well, it comes back to how we were brought up, what the image was of a man. So some people, and I never heard this phrase, I don't know if you've heard this one from the European, or I think this might be from the English, uh, from those from the UK, they said something, a stiff upper lip. Okay. I've never heard that phrase, but it's like, uh, be tough, like this is how men are supposed to be. Don't show your emotions, your job is to do this and that. I just said, I got to do what I want to do and whatever that means and forget about what the stereotypes are. But yeah, it is one where there's a culture play. You're correct. Many times it is the women that take the lead, and that is common, but men are out there. It's just how they handle it is more my thing. If they don't show up, to an event of mine, that's fine. They're quietly listening in, but it is something to say, start with sharing. Okay. Start by being willing to share that, hey, I need some help or I need some care. One tiny little story I'm going to share here, Andy, is I was doing a presentation uh, to a caregiving group, again, probably 100 people, and I could count on my hand like three gentlemen in the crowd. And one guy puts up his hand in the back corner during the Q&A, question and answer period. And I go to him, I said, yes, you over there, you can go ahead with your question. And then 10 seconds later, I'm kind of waiting. And I said, yeah, no, you had your hand up. And he said, just give me a few more seconds because I'm having a hard time. And I realized he was bawling his eyes, right? But he was really trying to ask me a question. And I said, oh, um, by the way, it is a safe room. But take your time. You can ask me whenever. And I kind of flagged one of the staff to kind of just go to him just to give him a few moments. He came back with a question and he said, Ron, as you could tell, I'm one of the few guys that's in this room. And he said, my adult kids, don't know that my wife has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's for 3 years now, right? And here you are, just going out, sharing your story, okay, telling, your struggles. And it was just one of those that, oh my gosh, you could see all the tears coming from everybody. And I'm like there trying to stay composed, right? For him at that moment to say 3 years, like, and he said, I need to tell them, just that I'm going through this. And I said, yeah, that's the challenge with gentlemen sometimes. It's just you got to tell the story, okay, and be willing to. So that's the first thing I'm always going to say is, and this is for everybody. So and here we are there, Andy. You're getting stories from everybody. Okay. And there's people that are listening that are going to have a hard time to tell their story. And I say, when you're ready, be brave, find those trusted people to just simply tell a little bit about your story because it's not new. There are people that have gone through it. Eventually, your story is going to help other people, down the road. So that's a big deal for me. And that's what I'm going to say to the gentleman that's out there listening as well, and women and everybody else.
So, shifting back a little bit, Ron, can you talk about your origin story, life growing up, and how you got into this space?
Yep. So born in the Philippines, parents brought me to Canada when I was quite young. They did not ask my permission, but I'm happy they did. I was 2 years old at that stage, and then grew up in Scarborough, a suburb of Toronto, all these years. At this moment, I'm currently in my mom's place. At the time of this interview we're having, mom just passed recently at the end of December, right after Christmas. After a good life of supporting her family, of the community as well. But for my dad, our story here specifically here is when dad got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Uh, Back then, very briefly, the doctor who I will never find, I can't recall who he was, at the hospital said, "Yeah, your dad's been in here for 2 weeks for his diabetes. We were having issues with that and all that stuff." He says, "By the way, your dad has dementia. I'm pretty sure he does, but you got to do a few more tests, but I'm confident he has dementia, Alzheimer's." And quietly, while I was standing with him, he was taking his notes and says, "Oh, by the way, be prepared, get some things in order. I'm giving him about 2 to 3 years." Right. And I'm just standing there and I said, two to, and he looks at me, he says, "Oh, just where he's at right now, the way his physical state and specifically his cognitive state, he may not be around in 2 to 3 years. So get his affairs together." That's really what he was saying. And I said, "Really?" And a lot of people get upset with that when I tell that story. And again, I just take what I take. I'm not one who will rush to my emotions. That's just how I operate. And I said, "Well, okay, thanks, doc." And then later I said, "I didn't know you could really diagnose someone with dementia like that." And I know he's including his diabetes issues, but um, yeah, a lot of other healthcare professionals say he shouldn't have done that. Like, how do you diagnose someone like that? It's other stuff that's more terminal. But anyways, that was my way of saying, "Hey, you know what? Thanks, doc. If you say 2 to 3 years, I'm gonna see if I could get my dad to 3 to 4 years, maybe 5. That will be my goal." Okay, so I set up my goal. Okay, whatever that meant. I knew nothing about the world of uh, caregiving, about what I was going to get into with Alzheimer's. Okay, limited knowledge, but it comes back to your approach, how you receive things. That will define many times, the journey of how it's going to go for you. Okay, you can't say for everybody else in that journey, but for me, I just said, "I'll take it on." Okay, I'll take the whatever it is, and let's see what I need to do. Okay, for them, but also for me. Uh, on it quietly, I did not tell my mom or my dad that, "Hey, you were given 2 to 3 years, Dad, for whatever reason." I just said, "Dad, go live your life. Whatever you want to do, I'll do whatever I can from my end, and I'll support Mom as well." So that's how it started. And every time we got a challenge, that's what I call them, not a problem, whatever challenge that came with dementia, with life, then I would say, "Oh, let me see who else is doing this, and then let's solve for that." Okay. And then I would try and reach out. "Hey, Alzheimer's Society, my dad's kind of going missing. He's getting lost. What can you give us?" To his family physician, "What can you give us? Here, Ron, here's your pharmacological solution. Here's the pill." And then, oh my gosh, it knocks him out. That's not my goal. I want him out in the community. Okay. So eventually, that's how I started, how I operated. Some of my solutions from technology, which is what I'm known for, uh, high tech, low tech, using the neighbors, expanding his safety net through the community is what I kind of became known for back in the day, for just that one challenge of him getting lost and going missing. And from that, I then got connected to one large group at the time that was just starting called Age Well, which is Canada's technology and aging network, which, Andy, I know you were part of their conference one year. So glad you made it there. And then other groups started reaching out to me, from police to the Alzheimer's societies, researchers specifically across Canada and around the world. So that's kind of the space that I'm in healthcare as well. Um, Yada yada yada, a few more other places as well, working with innovators. So that's that. And then Dad passed away at home. Not the easiest thing those last few years. Oh yeah. So bottom line, with that doctor, 2 to 3 years, we got my dad to 10 plus years. Okay. And his life is not all about Alzheimer's and dementia. My dad was a caring man, a spiritual man, and all that stuff. And by the way, in his last 10 years, he was living with Alzheimer's, is what I tell people, right? And that's how my story is. And then there's Mom, taking care of the caregiver as well. I didn't live with them, but I was close enough. And post caregiving with my dad, was caregiving for my mom. And recently she passed away at a decent age, at 88 years. And it's one where I got to now transition to, what does that mean for me now moving forward? But I'll still be in this space wherever I am on this planet moving.
What were you doing before 2007? Because it sounds like you dropped what you were doing to care for your
Yeah.
family. So what were you
Yeah.
doing before that?
My background, again, it's not, I don't look at just your background as your career, right? But it was technology, computer science, business. That was my background. But I was actually running a nonprofit, okay, a youth center. Okay, I end up in places where I actually didn't have my studies. My mom would say, "Why are you running a youth center? You studied technology, computers, business." Right place, right time. It was a nonprofit center. Served over 30,000 people in this part of Toronto. 30,000 majority young people to support them with their employment, with their education, with their entrepreneurship endeavors. Okay. And it was a nonprofit that I started. And that's what I was doing. I was working in the community. And it was one where I think it was just the skills that I could transfer, the ability to really care for people. Okay. Not just, hey, go get a job to a young person. It's like, hey, what are you interested? This is your life. Okay. Let's keep you moving forward in that direction. That was the goal. So I was doing a lot of that, running a nonprofit. There's a lot more side hustles that I was doing. I went to culinary school. Part of this, one day, another conversation, I was quite the expert in growing coral. Andy, I don't know if I told you that. You know Nemo and Dory, the fish,
Yeah, yeah.
saltwater fish, yeah. So I have a presentation somewhere called "How Nemo and Dory Taught Me to Caregive for My Dad with Technology." Okay, which is kind of a unique title. But I became quite the expert during, I don't know, 2005 to 2008, growing coral in my home. Okay? It was just a side hobby, but I was quite known to the point in the community where I was invited up and down the east coast of North America, okay, down to Florida State, New York State, to do presentations on how you grow coral better, okay, in the home. So I was doing that, and very quickly, side thing on that is while I was traveling back in the day on something called an iPhone 3, we're now at an iPhone 17. Okay, when I was traveling, my girlfriend at the time, I kept calling her and saying, "Hey, can you go check on the fish? That was your gift to me, this tank, and now it's a big investment for me. Can you make sure they're fine?" And she says, "I have to keep driving like half an hour and then half or just to spend 10 minutes with your fish." I said, "Yeah." And then eventually I said, "You know what? There's this thing called a camera I could watch, okay, the fish. I could control the lighting, okay. I could control a little bit of the temperature through my phone." That eventually got transferred to my dad's environment. And that's where it started, when my dad started going missing. Not going to go into the conversation about privacy and all that. My dad gave me permission and all that. But eventually, I took the camera from the fish tank to help watch him so my mom could get respite, can go to sleep. And then my dad could be safe. And I can say, "Hey, dad, I'm just going to watch you, while mom goes to sleep to make sure you don't exit, in the middle of the night. I'll be up kind of on duty a little bit." So that was one good example. Yeah. So that was that. So that was what I was doing back then. A lot of consulting as well. Eventually, um, business innovation, technology. So it kind of all lines up with the work that I'm doing today: community, business, entrepreneurship, innovation. It's just for a different population. And again, for everyone that's out here listening, chances are if you're listening to, your podcast here, Andy, it's someone who cares. You care for someone. That's really what this is about. It doesn't matter who. This just happens to be a community of people living with dementia. Either you're living with it, or someone that we care for. I might be living with it, and we're just taking care of each other and trying to help each other with all this information and education that you're pulling out from a lot of us.
When we first met a handful of years ago, I remember you were talking through this idea of uh, tracking shoes.
Hmm.
Can you talk about that? Because we were just talking about your dad going missing, and it reminded me of this conversation we had. It still sticks with me today.
Really? Okay, thanks. Yeah. A lot of other things I'm working on with other teams, other amazing innovators out there. The one that I use the most, you heard I'm very specific. I use the word challenge, and I like to divide and conquer a lot of these things. That's my approach. Okay. Sometimes it's not as easy, but I use that one example because that's a common one. People who are at risk of getting lost and going missing who live with dementia. There are stats out there, there are numbers, some will say 6 out of 10. To me, all that matters is you're the person you're caring for, the odds of them they have a higher risk that 50-50. Flip a coin somewhere in the journey, they're going to get lost. It could be a small one where, hey, I couldn't find my place in the mall. You couldn't find them for a while. That's an incident for me. Okay. Or it could be that one incident where I know enough, like at least 4 or 5 families where it ended up in tragedy. Okay. That's me personally. And at least two of them, it was their very first time. Right. So that it happened. Many times you'll get another chance at it and you start realizing, hey, this is happening again and again. So my dad used to go, so that's the one example. How do we deal with people at risk of going missing when they're out in the community? So one of the companies that approached me, it's a Canadian company called WeTrack, WeTraq.ca. So WeTrack, and the founder, Ishan, he was dealing with it personally as well with an aunt that was going missing. And he approached me saying, yeah, we have this GPS device, we're working on it. And I said, well, if you take it to a few other levels, I'll see whether I'm going to collaborate with you because sometimes there's a lot of innovators that just can talk something, but they can't really execute or they're not really listening, okay, to how to really solve for the community that they need to serve. Ishan listened to everything I suggested. He even talked to other people. And then I said, a lot of people aren't going to wear it or they're going to take it off their wrists. It's fine that we have those solutions, but they're out there. So when I said, you know what, it'd be great if it was in the shoe or in the sole, because everyone always puts on their shoe majority of the time. Not always, but there's a higher chance. Okay. He came back to me one day say, hey, we're working now on that insole you asked for. Or in that shoe, all that stuff. So it's an insole. It's not going in it's not a shoe itself. It's an insole. There are others out there, but this is it's at a different level. Now it's can locate with different technologies. So I don't want to get technical in the crowd here. But the one that I got excited about, which I joked about, but every time I joked about something, he actually moved it forward. I said, be nice that it could be wirelessly charged, that someone doesn't have to plug it in. Well, technically, yeah. Right now, you could put it on the shoe with the insole in there on a mat and it'll charge. Okay, wirelessly charging, like you can wirelessly charge a phone. So you can just put it on there. Uh, Before I forget, it's not on the market yet. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, there's some MVPs out there being tested and piloted here and there, but not on the market yet. Could be later this year, but just to let the crowd know, not the first half of 2026. And then I said, you know what? There's the other challenge when someone might be out and about. You didn't hear this one there, Andy, yet. You just, I think, knew a tracking shoe kind of thing. And I said, I always want a backup. Okay. I talk about backups all the time, not just for technology, but even who's Ron's backup if Ron's traveling and I'm worried about my mom and my dad. I had a backup team that I created, 3 to 5. So that's another tip I'm going to give. Combination of friends, family, neighbors that I said, you're on my speed dial. Okay. If I need your help. Okay. Backup on that, backup on technology. Okay. I hear enough stories where, oh, we forgot to charge the device. Okay. Person was found deceased who got lost, who went missing from a long-term care from their home. Okay. And they passed away because it wasn't charged and, or the battery died. So the cool technology that was added to this is something called RF harvesting, radio frequency harvesting. Pretty much it could quietly charge very slowly with Wi-Fi signals and cell phone towers. So someone could be out and about and it's charging. Now it's so slow. Okay. I'm going to go exaggerate here. It might even take more than a day to get 1%. Okay. That's what we're still testing out. Okay. But that gives us hope. All that matters is that 1%. If someone's missing now 2 days, if they can hang out in a coffee shop or in a mall or something where the signal will pick up and then it powers on for 1%, that's all we need. So that is the perfect case example of this technology being used. So, anyways, that's one of the solutions that I'm working on with WeTrack that we're collaborating with.
So you talked about the value of a care team. Can you talk about that more? Because I hear people all the time say, I want a care team, and they assume oftentimes that's either family or I
Yeah,
have to hire somebody in, and I'm dependent in my case, like on AHS to fund a care team, or it all comes out of my pocket. That's kind of the notion I hear a lot from families that it's family. If it's not family, I have to pay for someone. If I can't pay for someone, then we're kind of left.
yeah.
stuck.
Yeah, no, you got it. Yeah, and like you being from Alberta, so for people, AHS is Alberta Health Services. So everyone has their own health authority in Canada, in the US, wherever you're listening from. And for me, the team. Okay, so you're correct. How many families come to me or one member of the family, and the whole conversation they're having with me is their issue with their brother or their sister, or their sibling. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're talking about their childhood issues. Okay. And I get it, for all of that. So first and foremost, it's not always your family members. Do not assume your family members is the proper care team. Okay. The first question I will always ask people is, first, find people who care. That's all that matters. Doesn't mean you have to agree how you do things, but do they care? And that's how I talk to family sometimes. I start off and be like, do you care for mom and dad? Because if you don't need to be in this meeting, right? In this conversation with us. But if you all do, but you just have issues with each other, okay, or you just have different ways of executing it, okay, or different wants, well, then that's what we have to work on. But first, you start with care, okay? So yeah, it's not always the best family member, okay? For me, I'll explain it here. For me, as an only child, it's like, okay, I was stubborn for the first few years, thinking I could do it all by myself. You don't think about that. Just say, hey, I'll take that to the appointment. Hey, I'll drop this off to them. Hey, I'll spend a little time, and then you didn't realize as time goes on that wasn't just an hour a week. Now you're at 5 hours a week. Now you're at 10 hours. I'm just picking time as an example. Okay. Then the emotional stress that comes with it, the physical, all that, you just keep adding all those issues that all the caregivers go through, all the family members go through, all the friends go through, whoever's caring. And then you realize the game of dementia, and I now bring the word game. I have a slide called the game of caregiving and all that. And I say, hey, you know what? To understand this game, you need other players. Okay. You need other team members. And the only way you could do that is first, and I started this off with the conversation about gentlemen, is you got to tell the story. You got to be willing to talk to someone and just share. You don't need to ask for help. You can just say, hey, yeah, I'm dealing with dementia. Or, hey, I'm dealing with a parent that, you know, I need to spend a lot more time with. Okay. You don't have to keep saying Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever that is. You just got to say, hey, this is what's going on. Okay. People are there to support and help. You don't know who it's going to be. Okay. So for me, eventually I became more purposeful. I said, well, who is that if I don't have siblings? Okay. Who is that? Oh, those are my mom's neighbors. Okay. So whenever I was visiting, I say, Mom, who do you get along with, or who's nice here? Okay. My dad's the places he would go to the coffee shop. He would go to the famous Chinese restaurant nearby here that we always go to, the variety store where he would buy a lotto ticket. Okay. I went to all of them and say, hey, here's my business card. You know me, as a kid. You know my dad. Okay. He's our friend. He's your friend. He's at risk of getting lost. He's gotten lost a few times. We've needed the police one time. If it's getting dark, can you do me a favor and give me a call or urge him to go home? No need to stay here at the coffee shop, and all that stuff. Or give me a call that, hey, he's on his way home. Okay. So I spread the stress to increase caregiving success. That's a phrase I'm going to say that I come up with. Pretty much the backup team is a trick to spread the stress to increase caregiving success. So that's one of the things I talk about. And one of the ways to spread that stress is you increase that backup team. That's not just fellow players that are on your team, but that's also coaches who can mentor you, who could guide you. It's not new. Okay, Andy, you've gone through it. I'm going through. Well, I went through it. Okay, others can give you that one little tip. Okay, that will change that whole direction of how you live for the next year. Could be the next 3 years or 5 years, whatever that is for you. Right. So that's what the backup team's for. It's just throwing it out there. And don't be worried about being judged. You are going to be judged no matter what. People are going to judge you. That could even be your family. That could even be the person you're caring for. But again, it comes back to how do you receive, okay, what is happening? What do you want? Okay. And just say, go out there and whatever, if you get no's or if you get people that don't respond, just say, there's someone out there that's willing to help a little bit or a lot. I just got to keep throwing it out there quietly or as loud as you can.
I haven't heard on the show yet that idea of going to the coffee shop or the corner store, one of these places, and giving a card and saying, hey, if they come by, just call me. I haven't heard that as a constructive solution to a care team, but it makes so much sense because it really reinforces that community-based care model that unfortunately in, the North American context, we really have lost a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is about trust. Well, there's a few things here. It's about trust. It's about vulnerability. Okay. So there's a lot of cultures, a lot of family values, individual values that again comes back to, hey, I might need a little help, right? So it could be, yeah, being a guy, your values. So that's what I'm saying. If you're willing to take a look at your values and say, hey, that's going to get in the way of a better life. Okay. It's not going to be a perfect life, but it's my stress level, my fear level, when I didn't have the community backing me up, when I didn't have technology to know that I can get my dad safely at home, right? All that, uh, then my fear level on a scale of 1 to 10 would be close to an 8, 9. Okay. All the time. Okay. By talking to those, say, hey, I could use your help, please, if you can help me out. Okay. They said, all the time, Ron, don't worry about that. I went down to a 5 or 6, not a 0, but hey, that is a huge deal for a caregiver just to take some of that fear stress down. Okay. But I had to put myself out there. I was at that time, I really didn't care. It's everyone else that later told me, you told other people? I said, why not? Right? Okay, I have more faith in the community, that's out there because there's more people going through this, but we just gotta bring it out there. So yeah, that's how I've done it there, Andy, is I'm saying share it out there. But of course now there is a strong movement around parts of the world, here in Canada, dementia friendly communities. Okay, so people are being trained in the businesses, in the communities, okay, how to be more dementia friendly or age friendly as well. Okay. Only thing with that is that some people are trained, but they're not going to know who's coming in because no one has told them that, hey, we could use your help. Not just that one visit, but this is your regular, patron that comes here. Okay. He's a friend of yours. You didn't even know that he had dementia and we are having this problem. So it's on the other side that I'm putting it out there right now to the families, to the caregivers to say, be more bold to tell your story. You're going to get more of a return on that than your fear of being judged. That's what I'm gonna say out there.
So, if we had a hypothetical situation here, let's say that there is a caregiver, let's just say it was you, and oftentimes males tend to be, I can do this thing on my own. I am strong. This masculine approach of I don't need help. I'll figure it out on my own. I will figure it out. No problem. I don't need other people. We'll do it on my own. If you are somebody on the outside looking in, how can you break down that wall so that you say, "Hey, I recognize that you wanna do it on your own, but we're here to help," and where it's easier said than done because maybe, hubris kicks in or something where they're like, "I can do this. I am competent. I am capable. We don't need people that aren't part of my family. It's a family problem. We don't discuss it outside the family." How
Mhm.
would you address that? Because a lot of, um, the international families I speak to, that is a thing that is present.
Yeah, yeah. You're correct. This whole, you said international family at the end there. Is that what you said? Like the culture
Mhm.
play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think is the next wave that I really want to move forward. A lot of people are moving forward. It's getting traction here in Canada. Okay. Many times you would just kind of default to the Western values, okay, or whatever that is. So, uh, I'm looking to travel internationally, okay, in the next few years to tell the stories of how other cultures are sharing their stories, okay, on a YouTube channel. I know we'll talk about that briefly at the end here, but it is two parts to this. I want to go back again to that person that doesn't have a team and all that stuff, right? Why? And I forgot to mention this, that I have this one slide where I show a picture of Superman. Okay, so most people know who Superman is. Clark Kent. Okay, the guy that's quietly doing his thing, but he's trying to be everything. He's that superhero. Okay, I also put Wonder Woman there as well. Okay, so you pick and choose, who your superhero is. Okay, Superman and Wonder Woman. Okay. And that's fine. We all start with that many times. We do what we can do. And then you don't realize you try to be Superman. And then I add the team to that. Even Superman and Wonder Woman have a team. Their team is called the Justice League for those that watch this. So even superheroes get other superheroes with other skills on their team. Superman and Wonder Woman, the Justice League would include someone like the Flash, someone who's fast, Aquaman, who can swim, and a few others. Okay. So again, I just say most caregivers are Superman or Wonder Woman, but then, hey, even superheroes get a team. Okay. And that again for me is spreading the stress. The ability to spread the stress to increase caring success is what I'm going to throw out. Now, that's on their part to maybe go out, get their team, or the other side. If someone's on the outside saying, hey, I don't mind being a team member to you, okay, but you're not going to receive me, or you don't know that I'm willing to be there. Again, sometimes it's about bringing up the conversation, okay? Just say, oh, I notice, that I think you're caring for your dad, just so you know, I'm here. It's just something like that, okay? But if you can add what your superpower may be, or some of your superpowers, or what you're willing to offer, okay? Just say, plant those seeds because sometimes the caregiver on this side doesn't even know how to use or benefit from that, right? Because they're doing all that. They think they know that they're doing everything. So on the other side, just say, hey, just so you know, if it's simple, if you want a conversation, I've gone through this maybe, or I know what you're going through, especially those that have gone through it. A lot of them want to give back. That's actually a reward for them. Those that haven't gone through it say, hey, just if you need me to send you a meal, or if you need me to pick some stuff up for you, just let me know. I can save you half an hour. Okay. If you want me to grab something for you to save you a little time, plant those seeds is what I tell people. But you got to kind of gauge. It's so different for everybody, right? You'll know the caregiver that you're talking to better than I can give you advice. But I would always say, start planting seeds. It's always about seed planting, some ideas, and then see what grows. And then you start working on that to offer. So that's really what it is. Once you notice someone that could use some help, you just say, hey, I'm here. And here are maybe two or three things I could offer you. But if just whatever, and then go from there. Right. So that's the soft way I'll suggest to people. And it's growing. It's growing in the workplace. Okay, so the workplace caregiving, supporting caregivers in the workplace. It's in your community. It could be in your church. It could be in your uh, club. Let's say, my mom was part of a Filipino line dancing group of about 100 to 150 Filipinas. They all are the same size. They grow up to the same size once they get to a specific age, so you can't tell who's who. They're all your moms from the back. But then someone will say, "Yeah, no, I'm dealing with this," and then it just spreads, and then they all support each other, right? Um, that's how I would say it. You got to plant the seeds if you're coming from the outside, and
Which makes sense. I think some of the complexity, though, Ron, comes in where the family just doesn't want to talk about it, which is where it gets hard. Like bridging that discussion, like they don't want to talk about it. It's a family issue. So if you're not part of the family, you can't know. And sometimes even the family doesn't know about it because we don't want to talk about it. And that's, I think, where some of that intrinsic complexity comes in of building this care team, because you might be someone inside like, we need to talk about it, but it's like, no,
it's
it's my uncle's thing. It's his problem. He needs to give the consent to talk about it. Be like, but I am caring for him, so I want to bring this person in. I want to get
eh,
help myself, but the family doesn't want to talk about it. And it's a different dynamic than the earlier question, but I think it's just as present of a dynamic because you have this almost a family secret.
yeah,
And
yeah.
how do you disclose this? But it's like, I'm not allowed to disclose it, but I want to talk about it because it's pertinent and sensitive to what I'm navigating through.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong answer, and I'm very sensitive to those words I just threw out. That's another conversation for another day. There's another podcast I talk about right or wrong, good or bad, guilt. Okay, that's where guilt comes in. That's another thing, unless you want to bring that up here. So so it's never going to be perfect. That's the thing. Okay, you make the best move that you think is best out there. I'm the type of person that says, if you're hemming and hawing, should I or shouldn't I? Okay. I will always urge people, go for it if you're not sure and receive whatever ugliness comes with it. But to you individually, there's going to be a day or short term or down the road you say, well, I tried. It still didn't work out. Okay. So that's what I need people to know. No matter what in this game right now of dementia, of caregiving, uh, it's a game where you're going to lose. You're going to have days where it's not going to go your way. You try your best, you act. So that's the other piece is how do you, again, receive what comes back from something you thought was the best move and it didn't go well, right? So that's what I say. You plant the seeds or you could be bold about it. Okay, but you're still going to lose on some of this. Okay. The ones that I'm more concerned about are the ones that decide I'm so close to acting and speaking up, but no, I'm not going to. Okay. Just because, and I'll always say, if you're not sure, I say go for it because you know the results if you don't. You're going to stay the same way and it's just going to get many times worse. So I would say you got to keep speaking up internally for yourself to others, and even the loved ones are going to judge you and say things back. But if you know deep down your intent was, okay, I'm speaking up or I'm doing this because I thought it's best, at the end of the day, you should be proud of yourself for that, even though it doesn't go your way. Okay, you can just do what you think is best, and that's what I'm going to ask always from people. Did you think that was the best, even if it didn't go well? I said I thought it was, and I said that's more important because this game is you're gonna also lose. You're gonna get scored upon. You're gonna fail. You're gonna, you know, so bounce back from that. Okay, bounce back and move on to the next challenge that's in front of you, or appreciate what's happening in the moment until the next challenge comes. So yeah, that's not an easy one, but it is. It's going to be there. But can we? I'd say most times, if you don't speak up or you don't try and move it forward or plant the seeds, it's just going to stay the same. So that's why I tell people be brave, plant those seeds. It might be a small step, whatever that is, but plant the seeds, try a step forward, whatever you think is best for your dynamic, and the people around you. And it hopefully maybe it might shift someone, that you're trying to shift. But yeah.
And I think caregiving guilt, like you mentioned there, I think is so present. It's so common to say, I feel bad because they're getting worse. I feel bad because I tried this thing and it's not working. I tried this intervention. We got this technology to try and support them and it's just not working. I am
Mhm.
doing something wrong. It's me. When in reality, it's not. It's long term. The decline is going to happen. No matter you can be the best person. There's no perfect dementia care, but we always want to say it's on me. It versus it's the dementia. It's not you. You are doing amazing. You're doing the best you can. Um, don't put it on you. And all too often, I'm sure you've seen it too, where the family takes this on them and they take it on the chin every time when it's hard and they blame themselves and you just can't.
Yeah. Yeah. It is one there, Andy, that this is probably the conversation that I get the most passionate about. Okay. And why I get passionate is because, first and foremost, everybody, caregivers, people in healthcare, the researchers, the innovators, the community, they don't understand what the game of dementia is. And I come back to game, okay? Okay. Where we're at this game, and we can get better at this game all together. Okay. We're trying to make this game so much better for everybody. Okay. But this is currently a game where we are, as I said earlier, going to have moments where we're going to lose. Okay. And part of that is think of any game whether it's a board game, a card game, a sports game, okay, that's out there that you're familiar with. Reference that and say, the game is over, but I can play it another day. There's going to be another day I'm going to play it. And then you move on from it. Okay. Okay. So where I'm going with this is the mindset for everybody when it comes to life with dementia is that if you're going into it, and many people go into it, for example, I come from a Catholic upbringing, okay, that there's heaven and hell, there's right and wrong, good and bad, okay, there's these things called sins, okay, that if you sin, you've done something bad, okay. So I'm just saying those words, okay. If you come from that value system, okay, in your mindset, that your life and everything you do is about right or wrong, good or bad, and you bring that into the game of dementia, you're going to have a very difficult time, especially related to guilt and judgment within yourself. Because what all that is, okay, and I'm not judging the Catholic faith, I'm not judging any faith, but part of that is judgment. Okay. That world, it's judgment. Okay. And if you bring in judgment into this world of dementia caregiving, okay, and you are sensitive to that, you don't have a thick skin, or you're not uh, protecting yourself from the sensitivities of judgment or what's going to happen, then you're going to have a huge emotional and physical uh, period where it's not going to go in your favor living with dementia. So why I say this is because a lot of this is about how you receive things. Okay. When things hit you, okay, in life, okay, doesn't have to be dementia that crap, my dad fell down and I came home and he was on the ground and I didn't know that. And back then, the first 5 years, I was telling myself, oh my God, I'm a bad person. Okay. I should have been here for him. I didn't set this place up right. Okay. For me, I shifted that. The last 5 years, my statement right now that I would say to people is guilt should not be part of anyone's caregiving journey. If you care, if you're someone who cares and you're trying to care and you're offering the actions of care, okay, guilt should not be part of that. Now, that's easier said than done. And for a lot of people, it's so very new to hear it in that perspective. And I say it this way. I said, here's my quick answer of how to remove guilt. Okay. You can try it out. Many ways to deal with guilt. Okay. I said, try this out for a month. If this doesn't work for you or you don't like the approach that I've suggested as one way, then go back to your other value system. That's okay. I'm just saying, here's just one strategy. So very simple. I would say there are 4 words I want you to remove from your vocabulary. You actually said a couple of them earlier, but you also said the better words that I'm looking for. Okay. I say remove these 4 words: good and bad, right and wrong. Okay. If that is part of your conversation in your mind during this whole journey, okay, people are going to say it to you. But if you accept that and you say, oh, I didn't do that good because my dad, who I'm caring for, said, that's bad that you weren't here for me. Okay. And if I say, oh, I'm bad, okay, then I'm going to start, that's a judgment call on myself. Okay. If I said, oh, I didn't do that right, I did something wrong, that's a judgment call. Okay. And what is guilt? Guilt is pretty much simply a judgment call, okay, of yourself, okay, when you're feeling guilty. Well, I want people to think about that. I'm not talking about you're guilty within the law sense of you're guilty that you were speeding. I'm talking about, you know, the caregiving, you know, conversations. So if you remove those 4 words and the one, so you said, I think one or two of those words a few times, but you also said the word that I wanted, which I'm glad you said earlier. You replace that with the word best or better. Okay. Okay. Am I doing what is best or better than what I knew before? Okay. You know, that is a big shift. And don't put good or, right or wrong, good or bad there. Okay. Because if someone says, that wasn't right, then the default is, that's wrong. That wasn't good. Default is that's bad. Okay. So it's binary. And I've told people no, this is a rainbow of colors in between. Okay. There's different degrees. It's the shades of gray that what you've done is, yeah, could have been better, you know, and it didn't go your way, but didn't mean it was wrong or was bad. Okay. So that's why I tell people just start that. So the full phrase, I'll just end it off here, Andy. It's not just replacing it with one word. It's not just simply that, but it's saying, did I do what was best at that moment of time with the resources that I had, with the knowledge that I knew, and with the people that I had around me? Okay. So it's a combination of that. Okay. People are judging themselves even after their caregiving, 2, 3, 4 years later, coming up to me. I still feel guilty about something that I just learned about today from you, Ron, that I didn't do back then. I said, that's your call. But if you change that story, okay, again, it's the stories that we have for ourselves in here, and say, well, it's not, I don't think you did good or bad on that. It's just you didn't know that. And that doesn't mean you're right or wrong. Why are you judging yourself for something you did not know back then? That you didn't have the dollars, that you didn't have the people. Okay. So that's the biggest thing that I get passionate about, that so many people are struggling because of simply the conversations they have in their head are not as strong that they could be. And it could be so much better if they realize how to have the conversation around the game of dementia in their world.
In your dad's case, did you guys have any outside hired support, such as home care or companion care, helping with your dad?
Yeah. Even to this day, I am still in touch, I don't know, 7, 8 years with the personal support worker here in Ontario who cared for my dad. We call them personal support workers of other parts of Canada, healthcare aides, other parts of the world, health assistant, whatever that is. Okay. So, yes, we did have that combination. It was here in Ontario, supported by our provincial government for most of the hours. Few times we would hire privately, but at the end of the day, for the last 5, 6 years, it was the same person, and she kind of became family to us, even though she was, you could say, a worker, an employee. But no, it was a combination that, hey, we want you to support us as best as you can, and we'll support you as an employee. That's not how all those relationships go. I know that for sure. But yeah, we did have that, and that provided us respite. But that still would not be enough there, Andy. That's a battle that everyone's facing. Okay, it's the supply demand. It's a law of economics in this world. Okay, so that's part of my game slide where I say it's a numbers game. So where do we get some of these supports? Comes from technology. Okay, it comes from, and not just technology. I call it technology tools. I don't want to get people caught up. It has to be digital. Okay, just what are the tools, the solutions that can help us? Policy change. The easy answer, I roll my eyes. I get it. Everyone says we need more money. Everybody will always say that answer. I said, what do we do with that money? How do we use that money for even 10 times more than what you think you're going to use it for? Right. So that's what I'm saying. How do we adjust a lot of this? Because, yeah. So I didn't know if there was a question there. Yes, the simple answer, yes, we did have, but we were fortunate. I worked hard to make sure this was the same person that we got all the time.
When you were trying to go and figure those people out and vet and, you know, determine who was the right care person, what role did culturally specific care have? Specifically, someone that understood the Philippines, understood Filipino culture in their care so they wouldn't be doing something that, would cause problems
Yeah.
for your dad.
Yeah. So, and I say this with a lot of love to the community, but also to the true understanding of dementia, is that when a person has dementia, things are going to come out that sometimes you're surprised at, right? Meaning that, oh, didn't know my dad would get so angry at this kind of person. Okay. Um, and a good example was that my dad, who's been the most soft spoken spiritual person all his life, in the earlier days had a support worker come in. Okay. And this lady happened to have an accent from a country that didn't that he wouldn't understand clearly. Okay. And in his deep dementia at that moment, okay, he kind of yelled at her and say, you can't speak. Okay. You don't know how to speak. I don't know what you're saying. Okay. And speak properly to me. And I could understand her. Just it was something that there was kind of a thicker accent. Okay. From this person's culture, that someone from that culture, and most people will still understand. But for my dad, okay, it was too far for him to understand this person's English with a different type of accent. And then I said, okay, dad will probably not understand, but he would never yell like that before. And that just naturally came out. And he was in his moment where I know that was dementia speaking, more than my dad, who's truly would have just held back and be more polite about it. So that's just the communication piece is a big part. We're fortunate, I'm going to say, in the economics of different cultures of caregiving, Filipinos, there's a lot of them. So we actually eventually went through a few more Filipinos. They were all good. Just some of them, again, the health and human workforce, some of them moved on to different jobs. I said, oh, I got to look for another person. Eventually, this one person stayed with us and stayed with their company, all that time for at least 5, 6 years. The last half of my dad's life. But that is huge. Okay, from just even being able to not just speak English. Okay, you know, uh, sometimes go back to Tagalog, the Filipino language there, and just to talk about culture, things like that. So that was a big deal. Not easy. It's not easy. Technology's helping with that a little bit there, Andy. Right now, there's a lot of AI translators, things that can help translate, easily communicate back in different languages. It's going to serve a population. A lot of people are not going to like it, but it's going to serve a community.
So you actually brought up what I was going to ask about next. How does technology and innovation mold into dementia care when um, caregivers can be really, hesitant, fearful of leaning into it?
Yeah.
So how is that approached? What's your thoughts on that?
Okay. I think I probably have mastered this enough because that's what I would say in my past. It might be shifting in the future, but 50, 60% of my presentations and talks, I'm always invited to talk about technology, right? I do love technology, but I don't force it on people. And I love technology so that I can actually not have to use technology. Okay. What I mean by that is technology for me is just a tool so that I can do what it is I want. Okay. Whatever it is I want to do in life, and appreciate. Okay. Now, part of that thing in life might also be using that technology and involving it. But more the point is, people look at technology and get caught up in it. So I'll tell you the story of one of the talks I went to and did a presentation. Okay. And I'm there. I think it was a room, maybe 200 people. And before I started, just walking up and down, and then there's a gentleman in a seat on the aisle, and he says, "You're the guy that's going to be speaking about technology, right? And caregiving, right?" I said, "Yep, that's me." And he says, "Well, I didn't want to be here. I don't really care for technology. And I'm just going to be polite to listen to you." I said, "Well, thank you for just coming." And I said, "But then why are you here?" And he says, "Well, my wife over there, that's standing on the side there talking to someone, she wanted me to be here. And she heard you before and she wanted me to be here." I said, "Oh, okay." And then he says, "But again, I don't want to use technology." And then I said, "Then don't use technology." Right. And then he looked at me and says, "Aren't you here to tell me to use technology?" I said, "No, I'm just going to give you ideas of how technology works. I'm going to plant the seeds. It's up to you." Okay. And then when I was on stage, and I do this all the time, I say, some of you are excited about technology and you get caught up on that word. And I said, first and foremost, I'm going to ask you, Andy, and I'm going to ask people who are listening. Okay. Did you use the toilet today in some way? Did you go to the bathroom? You don't have to tell me what you did, but there's only a few things you can do with the toilet. Okay. Did you go in the bathroom today and use the toilet in some way? Is my question to you there, Andy, by this point. Yeah. So I said, if everyone has used the toilet, okay, that is technology. That simple technology that we forgot about is something that was never created many years ago, but now it's there for what? To help us pee and poop so that we don't have to go outside of our homes, go dig a hole, okay, sit on some kind of logs, and then bury that afterwards. Okay. That's all it is. It's to help us get through our life. Okay. Now, people think that technology would be something like this. Okay. All that. Okay. That where you have to go on this, computers, camera sensors. Yeah, that's technology, but technology is all around us already. The faucet, the water faucet is a form of technology. How many people on this planet do not have a faucet? Okay. And it'll be new for them. Okay. But it would change their lives. Okay. That's how I start off with technology. They're just tools to support us. Okay. Now, some of them can be enemies to us because some people are using technology for the bad thing, so you get caught up in that. But I remind people, if you can find those tools to try out, okay, and then see if it has a higher return, okay, than your fear or what you're not interested in, then that's something you have to realize that, hey, maybe can help our lives. So the one tip I'm going to tell everyone is that technology can be returned. Look at the return policy. I always say, hey, if you're not sure, give it a try. And then if you don't like it, return it back. Okay. Anything related to technology and tools, you can't talk about it. That's what I tell the innovators. You can't just simply talk to people and tell them what it is. You need to experience it. Okay. I can't tell you, you're going to love the toilet. You're going to love, this, because it has a round seat, there's water. You press this thing and it goes away. You can't, that's fine talking about a toilet that way. He said, you know what? Here, take a toilet. You have it for a week, you know, and then we'll take it back from you in the future. Okay. That moment when you're going to give it up, you'll know whether or not you want to keep it. That's what I've told people. The hard part is that a lot of people think that you have to commit once you say yes to it. No, you can say, hey, I'll try out AI. I'll lean into it. I don't like it. I'm going to get off it. Okay. So that's how I warm people up. I said, find a way just to try it. It's not about committing to it. That's what it is. And then use analogies to say, what are you using around your home? Like a light switch flick? That's technology, right? So that's what I just say. And down the road, 10 years, some of these are going to be part of our lives. You're not even going to be aware. It's going to be ambient in our environment that you're not even aware. Right now, Andy, you and I, although I am conscious of this, you're not even paying attention to the camera on your computer. Okay. We're just doing this, but that's technology, right? So that's what I'm saying. And if you didn't like to say, oh my gosh, people are going to see me online, then you can turn it off and don't choose it. But you forgot that this technology is there. So that's what I tell people. It's going to come. It's just a question, will it support you? And you just got to try it out. And if you don't like it, know the return policy.
So shifting from that a little bit, can you talk about your new innovation, I'm going to call it, WeCanBe.ca?
Oh, I love that you're talking about it as an innovation. Okay.
I mean,
So
I teach undergraduate students as well, and this meets the definition of
keep
innovation.
on. Okay. So I think you would say to your undergrad students as well that people automatically, again, like the word technology, get into like, okay, some of them think innovation is technology. No, it's not just technology. It's not something always physical. Okay. So for me, it's a Canadian platform, so it won't really serve many outside of Canada, but it could. Okay. If you are looking for Canadians. So WeCanBe is an online platform, okay, that I have just launched. It's soft launch. Well, no, it's fully launched. It's out there, okay, to support the connection for the community to those that are aging and those that care for people that are aging. Okay. So it's a connection more specifically to get them engaged in opportunities to speak up and share their voices in places like research, innovation, committees, speaking engagements across Canada, possibly also internationally. Okay. So one of the challenges for me there, Andy, thank you for We Can Be promoting that as an innovation. Okay. To me, it's always been there. Just sometimes innovation is learning how to upcycle something or just fill in a gap that's not being met. Okay. And creating something. And that to me is an innovation. And to me, it's this platform where because I'm well connected across Canada, I get so many people reaching out to me saying, Ron, from the research community, the innovators, healthcare, saying, can you help us find maybe someone living with dementia, okay, maybe a dozen of them that are willing to try out our product? Okay, or that can give us feedback on this program, okay, or can sit in a interview to discuss mealtime for someone that's living with dementia in long-term care. Okay, I might get an email, and I get about a dozen a week. Maybe someone saying, "Hey, can you help us with this this innovation that we're testing out, okay, virtual reality. We want some people to try it and give us feedback on that. Ron, we need someone on our committee, okay, a caregiver, okay, that's caring for someone with dementia. Doesn't matter where they are in Canada. So that's the challenge I have, making that connection. And that's all it is. It's simply a platform where all these people that are looking to have engagement. So recruiters will post all their opportunities. On the other side, my job is as I go across Canada and get the support from continued partners to say, hey, we have aging adults. I'm not going to say older adults or seniors. I'm saying aging adults, whatever age that means. Okay. And their caregivers who support aging. Okay, to receive emails or updates as to what the opportunities are out there for them. Okay, so if you're willing to engage, in research, in innovation, maybe sit on a committee, maybe you want to speak at an event, just sign up and put your name. That's really what it is. And then this platform will just help facilitate the connection there, just so that they can see the opportunities. So that's what WeCanBe is, just connecting people so that everyone can be connected more to what they're interested in and then we can get the higher quality of participants for a lot of these programs that they're not getting. I also want to address that we talked about culture, the diversity play. Okay, a lot of these researchers and innovators, not just in Canada, but they always sometimes end up with the same people over and over again. Okay, the same population, the ones that are participating, but they don't have the skill to go out and the resources, to be fair to them, okay, to go out and get boots on the ground into the community and say, hey, there's some people out there, they just don't know about your research and they're on the other side of Canada. Okay, but you can connect with them. They don't know about you. So that's what WeCanBe.ca is. So thanks for helping me highlight that there.
Of course, and I was looking through it this morning and looking at some of the requests, and there was two that specifically struck me as interesting. Actually, both are from University of Toronto, and interestingly, one of them was on testing dementia technology and like an app that they were developing. I
Hmm.
can't remember who they were partnered with, partner someone, and I was like, that it's a great opportunity, for caregivers and people living with dementia alike to co-create knowledge and make something that is useful and relevant for them. And the other one I saw was it was actually an AR or VR, or, yeah, AR VR sort of
Yep.
a testing solution. So that brings me to a question: how does this work for things like that that would be um, uh, necessitating having technology in front of you and being virtual? So yeah, I think that was University of Toronto as well. If I live in Alberta, how would those work? Does it filter between where I am and I have to be local or it can be abroad? Does it
Yeah.
filter those sort of things?
Yeah. So part of this innovation, I'm also going to be posting for my innovation to say, I need feedback as we continue to develop this. So the platform We Can Be is going to be an ongoing platform. I did not wait for it to be perfect. Okay. So right now, people are just going to see as we're building this year in 2026, right now, all the opportunities. But as time goes on, I don't want to, all these people that are going to be signing up, I don't want your healthcare data. I don't want your personal data. That's not what we're going to ask for eventually. We're going to be starting to ask you, tell me what you're interested in. Okay. Don't tell me it might be personal, but I don't want to know that. I just want to know, what are you interested in? Are you interested in dementia opportunities, caregiving opportunities, things that are available virtually across Canada or just locally? Are you willing to come locally? Some of this you might be getting not for you. You might be receiving it because, hey, I know my aunt wants to participate in research, but she's not online a lot. So I'll take all this stuff and anything that I see that would be of interest that I'm flagging here, I'll receive that. And then I can say directly to her, hey, aunt, I heard about these other opportunities. Take a look at them. Okay. So it is going to eventually be filtered. Okay. There might be 100, 1,000 opportunities. I'm going to try and save everyone's time to kind of say, we're only posting these opportunities. It might be virtual reality. And if part of the criteria is to say you only have to live in Toronto, okay, or you only can live in Toronto, we need to do this in person, then it will not go to someone that does not live in the area. Or sorry, we don't know that information, but that says I'm only interested in participating in or in areas that are not Toronto or something like that. Like, it'll be filtered, right? So it's not going to be perfect, but for the most part, that's what's happening right now. Some people are applying to things and everyone's wasting each other's time, not on purpose, but says, oh, sorry, we didn't know you're from BC. We've just gone back and forth on like 3 emails. Let no, let's clean that up. And that's what we got to work on the website to even teach those that are posting to get better at posting, get better at putting what it is that your criteria is and what you're not accepting, right? So that's what eventually will happen there.
Are these just free opportunities, or do the participants, or is there ways for these participants to be compensated for participating in these things?
Yeah, so there is a field that we ask for that. All these postings do not just get posted automatically, okay? On WeCanBe.ca on our team, we will be vetting them and we will do our best due diligence to make sure we're looking up who the people are, the posting, the legitimacy. Okay, so that's also another issue that's happening out there to protect them as well. Okay, um, it's free to the participants or the interested participants. Okay. So the aging adults and the caregivers that are signing up to receive these postings, it's going to be free for them. Okay. To look at them. And we're going to get better at making sure the postings say there is a gift card available or it's this much for your time or there is no compensation. Okay. Okay. So it will be there. It will be there. It's mandatory field, no compensation, that there is something. Okay. Some of them will not post exact amount, but they will post that there's something. And for more information, follow up, okay, with them. So yeah, we're wanting to pass that information on, but not all of them will be given. It's like a paid or an honorarium. Some of them will be free. And some people on the other side sometimes say, I don't want to get paid. I'm doing this because I just want to contribute back, right? So it works on both sides.
Yeah, it's important to clarify some of these things, just so that individuals who want to engage in that thing are aware of like what the boundaries are and what they can and can't expect, so that when they go into it, and I'm sure people are going to from this, that they can figure out how do they take most advantage of it to support wherever they are in that journey.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying to make it more frictionless, remove the barriers that's there right now. So even this conversation, I'm getting a few couple more ideas that I need to tweak as well. But that's really what it is. I have no problem people complaining to me. Like complain as much as you want, as long as it's constructive criticism. Because as you heard earlier, my view of taking judgment, it's not on me personally. It's can we make things better, right?
Yeah. So, Ron, we're going to shift a little bit to a segment that I call Lightning Round.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
All right. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Early
Green
bird?
tea. Green tea usually. Green tea.
Tea, okay. Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
You seem confused there.
Oh, no, no. I'm just saying it. I'm dragging because I like the night. It feels like I get to drag it longer, even though it's still an hour at night versus an hour in the morning. They're both an hour, but I feel like I get more at night in that 1 hour. So that's why I'm dragging. So I'm more of a night owl.
Hey, what's one word you'd use to describe caregiving?
Compassion,
What's the biggest mindset trap that caregivers fall into?
self-judgment of themselves in a way that doesn't support them because you could self-judge yourself in a positive way. Sorry, I'm not even going to say positive, in a better way that would support you.
What's something men often misunderstand about caregiving?
Emotions are not good to share with other people. That's what I think that they misunderstand. It's actually to your benefit.
What's one thing caregivers wait too long to do?
Act on things that are repetitive, that aren't going in their favor. It happened a third time, a fourth time, and you're not adjusting or pivoting.
Is technology in dementia care underutilized or overhyped?
For me, both. It is underutilized by a large population because they're not willing to try it. But then those that are over it and that support it, I believe overhype it in the incorrect way.
What is one show or movie you'll put on when you need to unwind?
Forrest Gump, my number one movie in life, Forrest Gump. Tom Hanks.
Interesting. And would you say Bubba Gump Shrimp is your favorite restaurant?
I've been to Bubba Gump Shrimp in Chicago. I have 3 Bubba Gump Shrimp shirts. Um, I have the VHS version of Forrest Gump. I don't know, a little bit of that. Yeah, I kind of like it a little bit. I don't know.
We have one in Edmonton, so next time you come here, we'll go.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And West Edmonton Mall. There's a
Okay.
Bubba Gump Shrimp.
Yeah. Did not know that in Canada. Okay.
What is one daily habit that builds resilience?
Physically, walking. Mentally, saying to yourself, you're doing your best.
What matters more, having compassion or being competent?
For me, compassion leads to competency.
Hmm. What's one sign a caregiver is headed towards burnout?
Physically, when I see people do in my conversation with them, and they're not conscious of that. Uh, yeah.
What is one action you undertook to help you prevent caregiver burnout?
As much personal walking time as I can get.
What's one small shift that can create a big impact in caregiving?
Get rid of the words right and wrong, good or bad in your conversations and your personal mental conversation as well.
Do you think that research in innovation in caregiving is improving, or is it complacent and stuck?
Research in this field of dementia and aging and caregiving, for me, oh, sorry, that's tough, is improving depending where you are on the planet. And it depends on that question if you get the resources. I'm just going to say, south of the border, I don't know if this is a priority, like to support my friends who are researchers over there. Some of them are coming up north. Not sure why, although I do know why. So the answer really depends.
Okay. What is the most human thing that has happened to you lately?
Most human thing for me is going through grief, dealing with end of life, and knowing that I have this gift for the next part of my future with mom passing away that, okay, my role caregiving to parents are now done. So it's now on to the next thing.
What gives you hope?
People that always show up quietly to care for each other, which happens everywhere. And when you feel that compassion and care, that's what provides a lot of hope to me.
Ron, I end every episode with giving the guest the opportunity to have the last words and say whatever they want to the listeners. So the floor is yours. What would you say to them?
First, thanks there, Andy, again for being on your podcast. It's amazing to know you. Okay, so I want people to know you. Okay, I'm reversing it here a little bit because
Appreciate that.
it's about the storytelling. Okay, you heard me talk about that earlier. We all have our stories. Okay, we all have our journeys. Some of it is very similar. Okay, in this world of dementia, but it's also very individual for each of us. And I just want people to know that by listening to all these stories, all this information, some of the people that Andy brings on, we're considered experts in some way in our space. We have the wisdom, yes, but you also have it in yourself. Some of you are still developing that. It'll come. But it is something I just want you all to kind of believe that it could be better. Just a little tweak here, a little change in conversation there for yourself, that's something that you need to just kind of look out for. It's not new. Caregiving, dementia, the world that we're all in, we all need to support each other. There's going to be a day you're going to tell your story with intent as well. You're going to try and share it with someone who is going through it for the first time in their life. And that's what I just want you all to kind of realize. It's that caring cycle for each other. Don't be afraid to kind of share. And that's what I want to leave this with. And thanks again there, Andy. Yeah.
Of course, Ron. Thank you, my friend, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for being here as well. If today's conversation resonated with you, make sure to follow the Dementia Collective wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, there's so much value in sharing this episode with someone who you think might benefit, maybe that male caregiver in your life. And if you'd like to help us grow this movement, please consider becoming a member of the Village on Patreon. Among the benefits, like the ability to ask questions to our guests, you'll get early access to every episode, plus the satisfaction of helping powerful voices like Ron's reach more caregivers around the world. And finally, if you're on your own caregiving journey, remember, you are not alone. We're here at blueBell to help connect you with the supports and resources that truly fit your family's needs. Until next time, remember, you are strong, you are not alone, and you are doing something that matters more than you know. Until next time.